Well, we've done it. We've reached peak stupidity and delusion in the gaming sphere. Today, March 9th, 2026, EA has announced layoffs affecting studios that all worked on Battlefield 6, including Criterion, DICE, Ripple Effect, and Motive Studios. Of course, the parent company EA describes it as a realignment across their Battlefield studios as they continue live service support for Battlefield 6. An EA spokesperson said, "We've made select changes within our Battlefield organization to better align our teams around what matters most to our community. Battlefield 6 remains one of our biggest priorities, and we're continuing to invest in the franchise, guided by player feedback and insights from Battlefield Labs." Blah 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 piss ass corpo speak. I'm just so fucking sick of this shit, man. Battlefield 6 was quite literally the highest selling game of 2025. It sold 7 million copies in 3 days. Those copies were going for $70 US, a full price AAA title. And it cost me like 90 Canadian dollars. So on the first 3 days of sales, they made a whopping $490 million. Then there are reports that it sold over 20 million copies by the end of 2025. That is $1.4 billion. And that is just on the game sales. This is also a full price title that is jam-packed with all the monetization of a free-to-play game. Weapon and character skins for an egregious $20. Battle passes with seasons launching every few months. You get the idea. It launched to nearly 750,000 concurrent players on Steam at release, which is a staggering figure, so naturally it has fallen. But it's still peaking in the high 60,000s and has over 50,000 players playing at the time of writing this. So it's still fairly popular and presumably making some income from its live service structure. But that doesn't matter to EA. They have shipped the game, made their money, and now as the end of the first quarter of 2026 nears, they have to lay people off to bolster their share price. A move that won't matter in about a year's time because the company will go private after being acquired by the Saudi Arabia private investment fund. This acquisition reportedly cost $55 billion. So yeah, I guess that $1.4 billion in sales is just a piss in the ocean then. Let's not forget though that EA expected the game to bring in, wait for it, 100 million players, which the DICE devs obviously admitted wasn't feasible. But EA has to set expectations high, lest the shareholders get upset and the stock price falls. Because as everyone knows, in 2026, the only important thing in life anymore is that the line must go up. The company must form its entire business structure around making the line go up quarter over quarter. It doesn't matter about the long-term health of the company, just as long as the precious shareholders don't lose money. The stock cannot lose value. This is the number one rule in late-stage capitalism. Never mind that countless talented devs are now out of work and it will hinder EA's future prospects at making another Battlefield game, something that they have said they are wanting to turn into an annualized release. How are you going to do that by laying off staff who know how to make and work on your game? Do you know why From Software games are so fucking good and beloved by fans? Because Miyazaki and the team have spent decades working on numerous titles, evolving their formula and getting better and better with each release, learning from project to project, and that all culminates with a masterpiece like Elden Ring. Let us recall what Nintendo executive Satoru Iwata said about layoffs after the poor performance of the Nintendo Wii U. Rather than laying people off, they instead opted to cut the pay of their highest executives by 20 to 30%, and personally 50% for Iwata. He is quoted as saying this, "Regarding why we have not reduced the number of the personnel, it is true that our business has its ups and downs every few years. And of course, our ideal situation is to make a profit even in the low periods. Return these profits to investors and maintain a high share price. We should, of course, cut unnecessary costs and pursue efficient business operations. I also know that some employers publicize their restructuring plan to improve their financial performance by letting a number of their employees go, but at Nintendo, employees make valuable contributions in their respective fields, so I believe that laying off a group of employees will not help to strengthen Nintendo's business in the long run. If we reduce the number of employees for better short-term financial results, employee morale will decrease, and I sincerely doubt employees who fear that they may be laid off will be able to develop software titles that could impress people around the world. Our current policy is to achieve favorable results by continuously cutting unnecessary expenses and increasing business efficiency," he concluded. I cannot believe that EA is acting so poorly that I have to praise fucking Nintendo, a company that recently announced DLC for an unreleased Pokemon game. ZA hadn't even come out yet, and these greedy fucks were already trying to sell DLC for it. People want to complain about our $80 Mario Kart game? Well, we will sell you a $70 game unfinished and then tack on $30 of DLC that should have been in the game to begin with. Is that any better? This is the level of innovation we get with late-stage capitalism, and I'm so fucking tired of it. But to give credit where it's due, Nintendo does put the game first for the most part. You can criticize Nintendo for a hell of a lot of shitty practices, but at least they still, by and large, release quality games. But with EA, their expectations were clearly unattainable for Battlefield 6. I used to work at a Fortune 500 company, and the one year we set a record for EBITDA. That is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. And our yearly bonus was tied to performance goals around this EBITDA. So this was the highest we'd ever achieved in the history of the company. So surely they wouldn't expect to match that again, right? Nope. Next year, the target, the expectation of this company was to hit 50% more than the record that we just set. In what world is that a realistic expectation? Needless to say, we did not reach our target goal for that year, and we weren't awarded a bonus. Bungie, another truly fucking horrible company, had a smash success in terms of sales for their Lightfall expansion in February of 2023. That October, layoffs. Then, in June of 2024, another success in the Final Shape expansion. That August, more layoffs. It was reported that they missed revenue targets by a whopping 45%. Again, maybe the sales expectations were way too damn high and unattainable to begin with. Time and time again in the AAA space, we are seeing games released to huge commercial success, and yet it is never enough for the C-suite. The goal in my life is to be happy and content, and that makes me richer than so many rich people because I have the one thing that they will never attain: enough. It doesn't matter if they hit record sales figures each and every year. The next year, it has to be more. No longer is having a strong balance sheet enough for a company to be in the black making profit. No, you have to make more profit than the last quarter forever. Line must always go up. Monster Hunter Wilds released about a year ago before it was ready. It sold a ton of copies, but then people dipped because the game was just not ready. Fast forward a year later, the game is in a great spot from what I've heard, but the players haven't returned. But they just had to release it before the end of February 2025 for their fiscal earning yearly cutoff. The needs of the shareholders had to take precedent over the product for the consumers, so the players had to suffer. Their stock went up until June, but it's been on a downward trend since. I wonder what it would be looking like if they took the time to polish the game and released it when it was ready instead. I could go on, but you get the point with my examples. This has become a plague on the industry, and it continues to only get worse. Microsoft acquired Activision for around $70 billion, so now they demand a return on investment. So a once great studio back in the day that brought us the likes of Diablo and World of Warcraft must now focus on monetization and squeezing the player for every last dime, rather than focus on curating gaming experiences for the audience to enjoy. And they were massively successful with their old strategy of making good games. Call of Duty was goated from 2007 to 2012. They could have kept doing that. But no, Microsoft, a multi-trillion-dollar company who doesn't even really give a shit about its gaming division, just had to keep growing in any way possible. They must acquire more and more studios so that it makes the share price look good. Because hey, look, we're acquiring more studios and that means growth. Yay for the shareholders. Their favorite word, growth. Then a company like Tango Gameworks releases Hi-Fi Rush, a critical success. And how were they rewarded for the awards and accolades? With the studio being shut down by Microsoft. How about the people that made Battlefield 6, the highest earning game of 2025? How were they rewarded? Layoffs. Late-stage capitalism in general is just completely unsustainable, and I could talk about it for days, but I'll keep it focused on the gaming sector. It has become an absolute plague to the industry. Making the highest selling game of the year is not enough to avoid layoffs, so where's the hope for anyone working at a AAA gaming studio? My hope is that all these talented individuals up and walk away and pull a Sandfall Interactive and make their own studio that puts the gamers and their passions first, not money. That is how good games are made. In a just world, people would have the financial safety net to do this, and we would all be better off. But the rich keep hoarding the wealth so that people lose any autonomy over their lives, bound by the constraints of the system to be a perpetual cog in the machine. The wealth gap is only growing larger by the year, so the odds that we get a Sandfall or a Team Cherry continues to get less and less. It's a giant risk. But at this point, so is working in AAA, it seems. It doesn't matter how big the company, this is proof that you aren't safe in this industry no matter what you do, and it needs to change. Anyways, rant over. Fuck EA. I said in my review that while I enjoyed the game, I was sad that I had to support EA to play it, and now I'm regretting my decision. I did enjoy my time with the game, but I have tons of other games that I could play and enjoy as well that wouldn't result in me supporting this horrendous company. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and leave a comment hyping up your favorite indie game in the hopes that some viewer reading the comments will want to check it out and we can stop supporting AAA. Come watch me on Twitch at ItSizzle7 where I'll be starting my playthrough of all the Souls games. I'm hoping to start this week, but I do have a lot going on. Next week for sure though. Join my Discord as well where we talk about video games, and lastly, if you're still here, thanks so much for watching to the end. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.